Hello, and this is my review of the new Nissan Qashqai. Hello, welcome back to the interface. My name's Alex, and this is the new refreshed Nissan Qashqai. Most of the changes to the new Qashqai have been made at the front. So we've got slimmer headlights than before here, and the grille itself is somewhat larger. We've also got the new Nissan badge too. Around the back, not much has really changed. The only real difference is the rear lights. On the previous version, they were a solid red colour, and now they are somewhat clear, and that is about it really. We've also got the word Qashqai spelled out in letters, the Nissan badge, and also the reversing camera. In the boot, there's 504 litres with the seats folded up. And there's actually a really generous amount of space, and there's quite a few different pockets to store different items. So in each side there's a deep pocket here for bottles and various things. There's also an elastic tab here as well, and there's a 12-volt socket for charging various devices. If you fold these seats down, that extends to 1,447 litres. And with the seats folded down, that does have a really flat entrance, and there's not much of a lip to get items in over the boot entrance, and you could probably get a lot of suitcases in there, no problem. Prices in the UK start at £30,135 for the Ascenta Premium and go up to £38,875 for the Tecna Plus. The car we have here is the N-Design in magnetic blue and costs £40,245. So for the front interior, this new version hasn't changed loads between the last generation and this version. The technology is fairly similar too. So we've got a 12.3-inch infotainment screen with support for wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. It's also got some Google services built in, such as Google Maps and Google Assistant, which works really well. So, hey Google, what's the weather like in London today?
Today in London it'll be mostly cloudy, with a forecast high of 20 and a low of 9. Currently
So that works really well, it's really responsive, and it does things a lot better than Siri can, because I've got Siri connected to the car with Apple CarPlay, and it takes a long time to respond, but it also gets some things wrong too. So that's quite good. If you're into your Google services, there's a lot of options on here for you. And also this infotainment screen runs Android under the skin. If you want a full in-depth look at the infotainment screen, what it can do and all the different features, there's a link in the top right corner or the description down below where I take a really good in-depth look at what this offers. Now, the climate control settings are exactly the same. It's all physical, it's all really easy to use. So that's a really big thumbs up there. There's some different materials and different styling things going on down here. So as you'll notice, this one's got full-on leather and full-on Alcantara. So it's Alcantara material on the dashboard, which is really premium. There's a really nice leather material on the steering wheel, again, really premium. And there's Alcantara absolutely everywhere. So we've got Alcantara on the dashboard, as I mentioned, on the door cards, on where you put your arm, so while you're driving you can get a nice comfortable position, and there's also Alcantara on the center console storage here, also a bit down here as well. There's a nice wireless phone charging pad down here, 12-volt socket as well, various physical buttons as well as a gear shifter, so down for drive and B, and then up for reverse. Got a park button as well. There's two fairly decent sized cup holders, so I've got a small coffee in there and it seems to fit quite well. And then inside here is a really decent amount of space actually. So you've got a tray in there which can fold out the way and be clipped in place. There's also a really deep amount of storage. There's two USB-C ports for data or charging devices, so that's really decent as well. The glove box is a fairly decent size, not absolutely massive. There's only just enough space to hold the manual in there and maybe a few bits and pieces, but it seems like Nissan has put the fuse box on the left hand side, which is really strange for a Japanese car, but overall it's not too bad. Up here we've got some controls for the lighting, microphones, as well as the control for the sunroof, because this one's got a really decent size sunroof, which a full length blind as well, which isn't that common now. You tend to either have a small sunroof with a blind or a massive sunroof with no blind at all, so it's really nice to see. We've also got a fairly decent size driver's display. Again, it's around the same size as the infotainment screen. Fairly useful for showing you've got your map on there, you've got all the efficiency information as well, and that's really easy to use. Again, it's probably, or looks to me, exactly the same as the one on the previous generation as the Qashqai, which I reviewed in summer 2024. There's also a link somewhere on the screen if you want to check that video out too. Seats themselves are leather, so same leather as the steering wheel, Alcantara on the sides, and these on this particular trim are not electronically adjustable. There is one button on the side for adjusting the air in the seats, so lumbar support, and you can hear the air being released, which is quite funny. But they are really, really comfy. It took me a little while to get a comfortable driving position, but once I spent a few minutes sort of sorting that out, it's a really, really comfortable place to spend a long journey. So I'm really, really happy with that. Also, the sun visors up here are fairly decent. We've got the whole roof is covered in black, which is quite nice and sporty. Got a little LED light to light up the sun visor, and we've got a clip for various parking tickets, and also a little mirror to see what you're up to. So the front interior is actually fairly decent. So for the back seats, there's actually a really decent amount of space. The Qashqai isn't an overly large car, but it isn't also a really, really small car either. Now this seat is set up for my driving position, and I'm around 5'7" in height. And as you can see, I've got a fairly respectable amount of space really. It's a good amount of legroom really. If I sit completely upright, there's an okay amount of headroom. The sunroof itself doesn't go back quite as far as other vehicles, so the coiling system for the blind does have to live slightly above the backseat passenger's head. But if you do slouch slightly, there's a bit more space there too. There's some fairly good amenities back here as well. We've got 2 USB-C ports for the backseat passengers. There's ISOFIX connectors for your children's seats as well. Got electric rear windows. There's no heated seats in the back. And a lot of the good quality materials from the front has made their way to the back too. So you've got full leather seats with Alcantara on the outside seats, and Alcantara on the door cards and also on the armrest. It's really, really good. The sunroof itself really, really helps elevate the cabin and helps it feel a bit more airy inside. So that's a really, really nice addition. And without it really, I could imagine the back seats being quite dark and dingy. Now in the middle here, there is a central armrest, which is fairly easy to get out. It doesn't look like there's any load through hatch for skis or wood or anything. And there are 2 average size cup holders in the back here. They aren't overly deep, and I wouldn't feel comfortable about putting a massive Starbucks in there, but it is fairly okay. Actually, I have got a cup out the front. If we put that in there, I wouldn't feel overly comfortable having anything larger than that in there. It does seem to wobble about a little bit, so it would be nice to have some larger cup holders potentially. If we get rid of that. Now in the middle seat itself, there is a fairly large hump in the back here. So I can imagine shorter journeys with it will be a little bit more ideal really than longer ones, but you have got a middle seat which is fairly good. Elsewhere, there are some little LED lights on the sides here, so you have got a bit more downlighting in darker conditions, but that's fairly decent. And there are some grab handles as well. So overall, the back seats are fairly decent. So what's the new Qashqai actually like to drive? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the only real big changes are to do with the exterior styling and the interior finish and materials that are used. The drivetrain has been relatively left unchanged. We've got the same 3-cylinder petrol engine, and acceleration is quite responsive. So there's a bit of delay there as it sort of gets itself sorted, but it is quite nippy to accelerate. Now, the main benefit of having that setup is the MPG figures, and Nissan quote 54.3 MPG, and over the last 250 miles of driving this week, which has been a combination of A roads and motorways, I've seen 52 MPG, so really it's not too bad, and I haven't really been trying to get the best efficiency out of this vehicle. The ride quality also for an SUV of this size is actually pretty decent. This one's got some relatively large alloy wheels, which typically means the ride is quite jiggly and uncomfortable, but this Qashqai is pretty comfy really, considering the class this sits in, also those alloy wheels. And when compared to the Honda hybrids, which work in a fairly similar way, the engine in this vehicle doesn't really get loud and shouty. It's actually quite restrained and lets the motors do most of the work, and will kick in when it's needed. But even when it does kick in, it doesn't seem to shout about it and let you know it's there. It makes a bit of noise, but not much at all really. Now, because the Qashqai is a full-on hybrid, there are some different driver modes you can choose from. So we have got D and B, we've also got full EV mode, and we've got e-pedal as well. So what e-pedal would do is will give you a bit more regen performance, much like an EV. So if I knock the car back into D here, so we've got full coasting mode, and it performs just like a regular automatic. If we put it into B, we get a little bit of regen performance. So as you can see, I pulled off the accelerator there, and the car will slow down and put some power back in its batteries. If we also click e-pedal, that will combine both together and you'll get a lot more regen performance. You can run the Qashqai in EV only mode if you want to. So if I click EV here, the car will turn off its engine and will allow you to run the car as an EV, quote unquote, and will work fairly well. If you accelerate quite harshly, it says EV mode unavailable, acceleration demand too high, so it can only really deal with so much before it has to recharge its batteries again. But it works fairly well. You can't recharge the Qashqai, it's not a plug-in hybrid or a full EV. It is simply using the engine to power the electric motors, which in theory gives you much better economy than a standard mild hybrid as well. Visibility is also pretty decent. The A-pillars here aren't too large, got some fairly decent door mirrors as well, and the door cards aren't too high. The view out the rear window is also fairly decent. It's a fairly large rear window. It also comes with a rear wiper, which is fairly rare to see in 2025. So overall, what do I think of the Nissan Qashqai for 2025? Well, generally, I'm actually quite impressed with what Nissan have done. It's a really, really stylish car, and there's lots and lots of space inside for most families. And even though there's lots of space inside, it's not a massive car on the outside, so it's not that intimidating to drive. But I'd love to know what you think in the comments down below. Please subscribe to the Interface Cars. My name's Alex, and I'll see you again next time.